Alright guys, so me and Steven just saw The Forest today, our first movie of 2016. Wow, this year is looking promising. So anyways, Steven, what did you think of this movie?
I thought it was an interesting concept. Akigahara is a real place, the suicide forest. It's in Japan, and it is actually believed to be spiritually active, where people go there to commit suicide, and it's actually quite considered dangerous by the Japanese people to the point to where they actually put signs up like, hey, how about you not kill yourself?
Yeah, so basically what the movie is about, it's about this woman who finds out that her sister, after days without any phone calls or any texts or anything like that, she finds out that her sister, from the police, that she went into this forest, and the police assume that she went into the forest to commit suicide. She doesn't believe that because, she's her twin, and apparently she has a psychic connection with her. I don't know. I've heard things like that, but I think it's just bullcrap. And she travels 6,000 miles to Japan in order to rescue her sister from the forest, or to find her. She thinks she's lost. And on the way, she encounters the spirits, I guess, if you want to, They
have some Japanese name for them.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be angry spirits, because apparently suicide's considered a violent death, and it makes the spirits angry.
Yeah.
And with the historical context of it, it's...
I don't know. I'm often very open for horror films. And when I see certain grades on Rotten Tomatoes, I often assume okay, it's just because it's a horror film. That's why people are being really negative towards it, And I don't know. For me, I didn't really like this film. What about you, Steven?
I was disappointed. I feel like this specific setup and this storyline, they could have really run wild with. I feel like they really had the potential to make this film terrifying and amazing, and I honestly went in expecting a lot more, and was actually quite disappointed.
I like the concept, like you said, it involves this forest where all these people commit suicide and their spirits resonate in the forest. I think that's cool. I guess just how it was approached, I didn't necessarily like. Maybe parts of that, considering maybe it's because the main character is an American female. I think it would have been more interesting if it focused on a character with Japanese influence, and we would have learned a little bit more about the forest. But they had to put that in there so we would learn more about the forest, because some people don't know about this. I
feel like it's a lot more interesting if you actually know the backstory, and that it's a real place, and
And that's part of the problem with the movie is there's so much exposition, I feel, in this film.
There's not a lot of setup.
There's not a lot of setup. The whole half of the movie is just them talking about it. They're basically on a nature trail. It's almost like a tour, explaining what the forest is. And when a movie spends most of its time just with exposition, it can really hurt the film, because that lessens the action and sequences of what's going on in the movie. And that's kind of what happened here. As far as the second half of the movie, I liked where they were going with it, but I feel as though it was kind of forced, I want to say. Where
the ending was pretty rushed, and it came completely out of left field. It was, I mean, it's kind of expected in that you kind of anticipate it happening the way it did. We're not going to spoil anything, but you kind of anticipate what happened to happen, but also they do throw another thing in there that's kind of it's hard to not spoil it, but it's just...
You'll know what we're talking about if you see the film, but I wouldn't really recommend seeing the film, really.
It's like if you've seen the Blair Witch Project.
Exactly.
It's the Blair Witch Project.
I was actually,
Japanese people.
As soon as we were riding back to the apartment, I was actually going to say don't spend your time really watching this movie. If you want a good movie in a forest, I would suggest watching the Blair Witch Project. It's a much better film. I know a lot of people don't really like found footage, but I think it's that factor that makes it more scarier.
Blair Witch Project, Cabin in the Woods. I'd even throw Evil Dead in there. They're all
Evil
pretty good.
Dead. But as far as a film goes, with a majority of it taking place on a trail or in the forest, I'd say the Blair Witch. But as far as this film goes, going back to our review, I felt as though there were so many plot holes within the script and everything. A majority of the stuff that's wrong with this movie is like in the script too. Like the decisions that this woman is making, like without going into spoilers, like during the second half of the movie, she suspects that somebody's like responsible for her sister disappearing, yet she still decides to, you know, walk with them in this forest. I felt that was like not explained well, and it was just like a really heavy plot hole. Like, why are you still like hanging out with this person if you suspect them, you know?
Three major problems I had with this movie was, first of all, it's pretty much the Blair Witch Project, but it's basically a 2-hour trailer of like why schizophrenic people should not be walking around in the woods.
Yeah.
Secondly, the acting really wasn't all that great. For the Japanese tour guide, spoke with like a perfect American accent, and he's supposed to be a guy from Japan.
Yeah.
Thought that was kind of funny. And third, this is just because I'm an aviation major, that plane is not the kind of plane you would cross the Pacific Ocean in.
Really?
That is not the kind of plane you would fly across the Pacific in.
That's actually really interesting. Wow.
I feel like no one else would care but me.
And I feel as though the reason why this movie was getting so much buzz is because apparently that chick is from Game of Thrones, right?
She's from The Hunger Games as well.
The Hunger Games, okay, yeah. So
she's
I remember her from The Hunger Games.
Videotape lady from Mockingjay.
And I don't know if she's from Game of Thrones or not. I could be wrong.
I think she is.
Yeah. That's probably the reason why this movie is being heavily advertised, because, like, you know, it's running off the steam of a well-known actress. As far as the movie goes itself, like we've been saying, it just feels like, you know, the plot of it is definitely rushed. Suddenly she's in Japan, like, where's my sister, and everything like that. And there's so many plot holes, not really good acting.
Another thing is, it's a horror movie, but literally the only scary parts, they were all jump scares.
Exactly.
Like,
I forgot to go into
all
that.
of that. Like, every time you... Like, horror movies are supposed to have, like, actual parts that are supposed to scare you. If it's just jump scares, like, oh!
And the jump scares don't really
They're not even good.
They're not even good, and they don't even, like, mix in to the story. Most of them are, like, in dream sequences, or they're just random people out in the streets, or maybe an old lady in a hotel or something like that where they're sleeping.
Like, there's a scene where she, like, comes down the stairs or something and sees, like, a little girl, and, like, the little girl's face goes, like, ah!
Yeah. Like, it
doesn't benefit the
main
plot at all.
dream sequences, and it doesn't incorporate into the story whatsoever. And as far as, like, the story and what's actually happening on the screen actually scaring us, there's not a whole lot of that. There was, like, some of that at the ending, but, like, it's all in the background and, like, with blurry objects, like blurry figures. Not the whole movie scared us. Like, it was all just kind of fake jump scares, really. So I think that's something to really take into consideration if you're even looking for a scary movie this week. It's not really that scary. It's just jump scares, really. There's not really any psychological twist or anything like that. Well, there is psychological twist, but I feel like that was really forced. But as far as the whole movie goes, it's just kind of teasing you with scares. You know, it's I don't know.
Oh.
So yeah, that was The Forest. We just started 2016 with this crappy, scary movie. I don't know.
Stay optimistic, though. Stay optimistic, PixelTalk fans.
Yeah.
There will be better ones out there. The Finest Hours comes out. I'm sure there's other movies.
Yeah, and if it makes you feel any better, this happens every year, guys. There's always going to be a scary movie that comes out in the first week of the year that's really terrible. In 2012, I remember seeing, like, the Devil Inside. That was a terrible movie. 2014.
Forgotten about that.
Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Like, it's just...
I thought that one was alright.
I thought that was good, but it's not a good movie. Like, it's just...
First Paranormal Activity was awful, but marked ones I think was a lot better, which you didn't really have anything to live up to anyways.
I thought it had a lot more action in it. But my point is, every year I'm seeing a trend. Every year starts with a crappy, scary movie, and I feel as though that's Hollywood saying, like, okay, we got to get this out of the way, so let's just put it in the first week.
New ideas, guys.
So
no new ideas.
That's
why the Marvel franchises are all great, because that keeps Hollywood from the terrifying position of having to be creative.
So yeah, guys, that was our review of The Forest. Comment down below what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it yet, like the video, share it, and please subscribe to PixelTalk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. And Steven!
Sometimes.
He's eye candy for me.
Yeah. I leave Sunday, so... I have to go back up to school, guys. I leave on Sunday.
Well, I'll wait for your spring break. It's okay. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey.
I'm Stephen Van Ostenbridge.
And this is Pixel Talk. Oh my god, you did the tongue thing.
I did.
Yes!